Welcome to the script creation guide for the Continua web app. Load up a little animated SVG here. Thank you to the Language Creation Society for letting me use the logo, and also in the animation I added some stars in approximately the right place in the sky. Okay, just proud of that, never mind. Let's go ahead and load up the Inara font to begin with. When it loads, you'll see that there are three menu options up here. Our menus are Font, Adjust, and Script. There are two icons, Download and Upload. Click Download as often as you like so you don't lose your work. When you upload, you'll refresh Continua and it will load in your font file so you can type in your font and see your changes. Typically, the font is created on these lines here. Each line has a drawing code for a glyph, or character you could say. Each one is mapped to a Unicode character. So here we have stars mapped to this. Number 0 is mapped to this. Number 1, 2, and so on. You may notice that a couple of lines say reserved on them. That is because there are three special characters that are used: the dash, the pipe, and the plus sign are sort of a leitmotif in Continua. These three symbols are used for different functions in different parts of the program. So let's go ahead and exit Inara. We'll lose this work if any changes were made, so it warns us. We'll open New. Now we have a blank slate to work with. We'll go ahead and type A/B, that's a lowercase, A and B. This will draw a line segment from grid point A to grid point B. We could continue this on to /G/H/C. We could go back to B. Now you'll notice that in this case, in our preview of the font here, we see that it's filled in. If we want that hole to appear, we need to tell it to draw a second path, a second outline.
We do that with the @ symbol at the beginning of the line.
And that will open up that hole. So now we have two paths being traced. Now, let's go ahead and draw a line segment from M to X. Now, we see this line was drawn, but that the hole closed up again. That's because now the two paths that are being traced are around these two different segments. If we want to draw another path, we need to add another @ symbol. Okay, so now that's looking pretty good. If we want to draw something other than a straight line, we have a choice of 10 different curves, which is the digits 0 through 9. 1 and 2 are elliptical arcs. We also have some sort of bends, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, when we get to 7, we see some S-shaped curves. 8, another S-shape, 9 S-shape, and 0 S-shape. So let's leave that there. And it's kind of starting to look like a little bit like a bird to me. So let's go ahead and draw another line just to kind of finish out that wing, L/X. And instead of slash, let's use an elliptical arc. Okay, well, maybe let's use this one. How about that? And maybe let's do from L/W. We'll make that one elliptical. Okay, so we've got that form there. and that's mapped to exclamation point. Instead of exclamation point, let's just map it to B for bird. And it's a good idea to move kind of slowly, because as you do these things, it saves certain information into the app. So it's good to give it just a split second to... Okay, so we'll map the capital B to bird. Now let's draw a letter A. So I'll draw from, say, V to H to X to L. And let's put an @ symbol at the beginning to open that. Okay, the whole. And let's make it look a little bit fancier. So maybe we'll use something like... that looks pretty good to me. Okay. And let's make some more curves, just for the heck of it. Okay, let's just do like that. Now, if we don't want the main grid points, we can get to these grid points in between. If we want to go to the grid point to the right of the main point, then we'd use the dash, the hyphen. If we want to go down, we could use the pipe instead. If we want to go both right and down, we'd use the plus sign. So you can see the plus sign kind of looks like a pipe and a hyphen on top of each other, so it does both. Okay, and let's use, we'll put a dash on X, and do we want a dash on anything else? I don't know. We'll just do it like that. Alright, let's save our work. You can see that by default, under the adjust, we have left to right and horizontal. And now to refresh, we want to open the file we just saved. Oops. And you'll see it create the font file here. If you want to download it, you can click this. You don't have to, but it will still show up here. Now, so we mapped to A and B. Let's try typing A and B. Okay, so what did we get? We got A and B, but they're overlapping. So what we need to do is, if we don't want those to appear on top of one another, sometimes you may want characters to appear on top of one another, glyphs, to add up together. But in this case, let's add some spacing. So if we want to add a full space, we'd put a plus sign at the beginning of the line. If we wanted to add a half space, we'd use the pipe. If we want to add a mini space, we use the dash. So let's put a plus in front of each of these. We resave, we reopen to refresh. Okay. So we'll give it a second look. It's already appeared here. We have these now spaced out nicely. Okay. So let's type a bunch of birds. I don't know, however we want to do that. Now, let's talk about the phoneme map. There is a speech synthesizer here. So if we want to say hello world, these are Sampa characters. I don't know if you're familiar with Sampa, but it's sort of an alternative to the IPA style, which is used to type easily on keyboards. So if we do that, we can hear it speak to us. Now, let's say that we wanted to change the sound of something. So our bird, instead of making it sound, you would think it would sound like a B, but let's make it sound like a V. You can think like, I don't know if you're familiar with Cyrillic, but in Cyrillic, the V looks like a little capital B. So let's just treat it that way. So if we say ba, 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 it will actually sound like va, 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 va. So let's try that. Okay. And you can see our little bird with an A after it over here. Now, let's say that we want to change the way certain characters appear over here. So let's say that we type, I don't know, let's just say the word champ or something, I don't know. And then let's say anytime it sees a CH, we want to replace it with one of our birds. So CH will be replaced by capital B, which is going to be one of our birds. Now when we go back to that, you see that happen? Now let's say instead of a capital B, we wanted it to look like R or something. Now it looks like a ramp over here. So you can do all kinds of replacements here, both in sounds and in visuals. Okay. Now let's talk about the last menu. This is a kerning map. This will allow us to make adjustments to how close or how far away certain characters appear. And we'll do this using hex values. I don't know if you're familiar with hex or not, but in this case we'd look at the A here, and it appears at 4, 1. So let's say whenever an A appears with a B, so B is 4, 2, whenever those two characters appear next to each other, let's use these symbols. We'll shift them to the right. And I'm going to put a few in there so we shift them pretty far so we'll be able to see. Let's save that. Reopen the file to refresh. Okay, now let's look here. You see where the A and the B are next to each other? They've been spaced out further. Our kerning was applied. At the time of this video, the vertical kerning does not happen, but you may notice it work in a future version. Okay, so let's talk about vertical. Let's say we want to change our font to a vertical font. For the heck of it, let's also make it a right to left. So this will be a font that goes down. When it reaches the end of the line, it will go left. So we'll save that. We'll reopen to refresh. Now you see that is what happens. All right. And we can, of course, always click this to download our font file. So, if we look in our downloads, we have that font. Don't know how well you can see that, but the characters that we've mapped show up. All right. So, see that it can be pretty easy and quick to create these fonts. There are a couple caveats. Occasionally, there may be one of these that doesn't trace well. So I added something a star at the beginning of a line. Sometimes it helps to put this in. Sometimes it just, you might have to kind of play with it sometimes and add at symbols and stars until you get a good combination that works. In general, most characters don't have problems. If you really do run into one that's complicated and has problems for some reason, I may add another fix feature in the future, but you can try to maybe put it on map it to two different characters, and then add those together in here so that they show up on top of one another. And if you're within the app, it's very easy to do things like that, because you can always just map X to ABC or whatever you need. So you can make it very easy to type. If you save your font and import it into a different application, you won't have the grapheme mapping capability, but there's ways to do it. I might add a little splicing feature in the future. Two more things I'll talk about quickly. One is that you can do ranges of Unicode values in the kerning function. So that makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, we'd wind up typing this out hundreds of times. This says that, for instance, if the Unicode number 69 is next to any value, because we only really are considering values from hex value 20 to hex FF. Outside the scope of that is sort of beyond the intended scope of this program. It's sort of meant for defining, a couple hundred characters, not really going beyond that scope. You could probably use it to do that if you wanted, but it's not really supported so much. Also, I just wanted to say that, of course, inside this grapheme map and inside the context, you can use those same plus and pipe and minus to do the full space, half space, mini space. These are mini spaces. We just use a different symbol here because I just think it looks neater to just, we're only using mini spaces either left or right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I know we moved quickly through that. I didn't want to make this video too long, but please pause and try things out. And let me know what you managed to create with this. I'd be very interested, and if you'd like to have your work included in these sort of, whatever you want to call it, these included fonts, then by all means send it to me, and I'd love to include it. Have a great day.